Hello, welcome to IGTV. I'm Angeline Ong, and this is your special look ahead to the week starting the 8th of April. We'll be joined live by Anthony Batista from Tasty Live in a moment. Let's just get you through the economic diary, and it's looking very busy. We've got trade balance numbers and industrial production out of Germany on Monday, and consumer inflation expectations in the US. And also on Tuesday, it's all about retail sales in the UK and the consumer. And also in Australia, we've got not just consumer confidence, but also business confidence. From the US, look out for API crude oil inventories as Brent and WTI are creeping upwards in terms of their prices. Wednesday brings with it a heap of central bank decisions. New Zealand producer price index numbers from Japan, but we also have Canada out with an interest rate decision too. Comments likely to be focused on inflation there. And we have the consumer price index out of the US and, of course, the FOMC minutes, which will be pounced on for any comments that would give us any clues to the timing of the Fed's first rate cut, currently still penciled in by market watchers for June. On Thursday, it's the China consumer confidence data, and also the big one to watch out for is the ECB on Thursday, out with an interest rate decision. Now, the ECB is interesting because they could potentially cut rates before the Fed. There's much talk about this, but nothing set in stone yet, of course, because it's all data dependent. From the US, we've got the producer price index and also initial jobless claims. And on Friday, it becomes a bit quieter, but we still have monthly GDP numbers from the UK, which could move the pound. Many of our clients like trading pound crosses. And also the trade balance numbers out of China and that Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index out of the US could potentially move the dollar versus the yuan. Let's cross live now to Bat, who's standing by live in Chicago. Bat, thank you so much for joining us, and of course coming back from your holiday as well. You look so well. You're still keeping that glow.
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
It's such a busy week coming up, and we've got all those interest rate decisions. I guess the real action is in the Treasury market.
The Treasury market is where the action is. Interest rates you mentioned and inflation you mentioned. Inflation's been rearing its head a little bit. The long end of the bond curve, bonds have been going lower, which has made the Fed, the CME Fed Watch tool, which in late March was more of a 75% chance of some sort of rate action coming in June. Now more like a 50-50 shot. So I don't know if the bonds are moving the Fed's decision or the Fed is set on their decision, but it's really going to be an interesting market these next couple of weeks to see what the bond and bond yields do. They lost about $3,000 on one long end bond. That's a 30-year bond on the U.S. side in just the last week and a half. So that's a big move in treasuries.
And also, we've been seeing some interesting moves on the markets this week as well. Do you think we're seeing finally a recalibration of that optimism around Fed rate cut timing?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. You know, I know a lot of people love to look as the Fed as the definitive movement in the market. I really think the market moves the Fed. If bonds can catch a little bit of a bid here, then the Fed will be more likely to cut rates. If the bonds stay weak, then I think the Fed's hands are almost tied, and they'll have to kind of prolong anything that they've wanted to do. Another thing to look at, or another factor, would be volatility. Volatility finally kind of upticking a little bit here. I actually look at that as a good sign because you've had a lot of commodities rising too. You've had gold making new highs. You've actually had oil making new highs. Oil, I think, is a little bit worse for the economy, making new highs than gold. But you definitely have some fear out there in the market, even though the market's at all-time highs. So it's really a tug of war between inflation and profits in the market.
That's right. And copper also at 14-month highs. Next week is huge for earnings too. We have the US banks coming online in the back half of the week. What are you expecting to hear?
Well, they're really going to have to hit their numbers, right? I mean, it's almost like the market has given them a perfect storm with the way that their stock prices have acted. Now they've got to put up or shut up. I think the numbers are going to have to be perfect to maintain any type of upward movement that these banks have had, because they have had a tremendous run so far, Q1 going into Q2.
Thanks very much, Anthony Batista there, live from Chicago, from Tasty Live, part of IG Group, of course. Now, it's a big week for earnings as well, and as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the US banking season starting, but we have many other notables too. Showing you Monday first, where we've got Forexpo out with first quarter production results. Imperial Brands follows suit on Tuesday with a trading statement, whilst we have Tesco and Delta Airlines on Wednesday. Look out for a special report from Axel Rudolph on Tesco's full year earnings ahead of those results. On Thursday, it's all about drinks and Constellation Brands, but on Friday, it's the big set piece, the start really of the US earnings season, kicked off by Citigroup, JPMorgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. Many of these banks have already announced shakeups and reshuffles at the top, and we'll see what the new plan is in the coming quarter. And that is your latest for the week ahead. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a good weekend. This is IGTV.